Hi. This room's filling out now. Did you RSVP yes for pizza?
I RSVP no.
All right. I was going to tell you to get in there.
Thank you.
Yep. Tiffany watches our coffers. Yep. Yeah, next year. Good. All right, we'll do it live. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We have two presentations going on, and just be ready to uproot if you were going to see the Stripe one. That one will be in the back, so we'll get to that in a second. Just thought I'd let you not get too comfy if you're going to go back there. So anyways, if there's any newcomers here tonight, welcome. My name's Mike. I'm the president of Springfield Devs. And speaking of roles in devs, if you haven't seen it, we are actively seeking 2 board members. So if you go to any of our social outlets, including Discord, you'll see a link there to sign up. So we are actively looking for 2 general board seats. But starting next year, we will be in the last year of the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary roles. So those are on there to express any interest if you have them, because those will be coming up soon-ish. But we do have the 2 general ones that are open now that will probably be selected here within the next month or so. So check that out if you're interested. Trying to think. Oh, yes. Next month, we will not be meeting here. We're going to have a party. So we tried and do this in December. I don't think we had one last year. But we'll be at Andy B's bowling alley. And the way we're going to do this, we did this the year before COVID hit too, and it was pretty decent. It's low key. You will cover your own bowling or arcade stuff if you're interested, or you could just come and hang out, and we'll be providing appetizers and drinks of all varieties. So if you're interested in bowling, gotta pay. If you're interested in just hanging out, free food, free drinks. And then I think we did some laser tag last time, and I got winded, and it was fun. So it's pretty cool stuff. So that will be December, and then January. It's always a tough month to start meeting in right at the beginning because we do the first Wednesday, and I think that's super early in January if I'm not mistaken. We will not meet in January. That'll be just a skip month. So we'll be back in February, ready to rock and roll. So this will be the last formal meeting here for a little while. So thanks for coming out. We typically, when we have multiple presentations going in-house, we typically have both the presenters step up for or however many presenters step up and talk about what they're going to be discussing. And so one is remote. So if you came here, raise your hand if you came here to hear the Stripe presentation. Couple. Okay. So that will take place yonder, that room back there. Brenden will be presenting remotely, so we've got the TV in there, and you can just hang out in there and take some pizza if there's any left and you marked yes, and just go hang out back there. And so I don't know that needs a whole lot of description as far as Stripe online payment processing, and you kind of know what you're getting into there. So sorry, Brenden, if I did a horrible job pitching your stuff. And then we got Levi, of course. I'm going to let him talk about that, and then if you've got any other stuff to talk about as well. So here's Levi, and have fun tonight.
Okay, so just quick run through on the presentation and then a couple quick community announcements. So the presentation tonight is all about WSL. WSL stands for the Windows Subsystem for Linux. It is essentially a Windows feature that allows you to run a Linux distribution directly within Windows. If that sounds cool, or if you don't know what that means, you're in the right place because I'm going to explain it all from top to bottom. If you're really familiar with the whole thing, I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the architecture behind it, because there's some really interesting things that the WSL team has done to pull off this kind of great piece of tech. And so I'll be talking a little bit about that towards the end. And then on community announcements, mainly just want to reiterate that I also run the Open SGF group. We meet every Monday here at the eFactory, and we work on software projects for nonprofits. If you're, and we're happy to help beginners, kind of get started and learn the ropes and all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you're just kind of looking for an outlet to use your skills in your free time, stop on by Monday at 6 p.m. Here at the eFactory. Okay, so I think we're ready to break. One more thing.
Scroll down a little bit on the page. One more. We love our sponsors.
We love these sponsors. All right, cool. Give me just a second to set up, and then I will kick things off.
Hello. Is everything going good? Am I coming through? Yeah, okay, perfect. Hi there, my name is Brenden Reeves. I've given a few talks here previously in the past. Oh, okay, if I need to wait, just go ahead and wait, sorry. Can you hear me? Tiffany? Sorry, I muted my mic since I was eating something. Okay, perfect. Am I good to go? All right. Sorry about that. Hi. My name is Brenden Reeves. I've given talks a few times here in the past, usually over Firebase, but tonight I'm actually going to be going over Stripe. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Just taking precautions with COVID and everything. But I will be watching Twitch chat. If you have any questions, please put them in Twitch chat or put them in Discord. You can put them in the Dev Night chat, I guess. I will be watching both of those. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask at any time. I'm happy to pause whatever I'm going through to answer any questions. Tonight's what I'll be going over is going to be a little bit of basic information about Stripe. Excuse me. And then after I go over a little bit of the basics, we're going to go into a little demo that I've prepared for going through Stripe's API with just building out a very basic web app using Razor Pages. But yeah, with that, I guess I'll go ahead and get started. So I've kind of already done a little bit of this, but I'm Brenden. I'm a full stack developer here locally in Springfield. I mainly work in back-end API development and front-end web dev, but lately I've also been doing a lot of iOS app dev. My primary, the one big thing that I really enjoy and spend a lot of time doing in my free time is relating to dev stuff is Firebase. Use their stuff all the time. I've given several talks in the past about different Firebase toolings. Love their authentication and databasing and cloud messaging. Use several of those on a day-to-day basis with work and with personal projects and stuff. But today, we're going to be going over Stripe. Stripe's something that I have used. Actually, let me go back a slide really quick. Stripe's something that I have used at the place I'm currently working at previous places. It's a very versatile thing that has a bunch of different features with it. When I first started working in tech here in town, I worked for a credit card processing and hosting company, and we had our own payment processing that was in-house, and you had to go through a lot of hoops to like actually worry about it on the development side, of worry about the security and authorization, and tons of legal forms you had to go through whenever you wanted to sign up to be able for your business to be able to process payments. And just in general, payment processing can be a massive nightmare. However, Stripe makes it really easy. So Stripe, what is it? It's a payment infrastructure that allows developers, businesses to start accepting payments for both services and products, both online and in person. And it takes that takes a lot of the security headache and the nightmare of trying to manage all of that very, very sensitive data and all of the systems of trying to get everything to link together off of the backs of developers, and just take off the business and puts that in the hands of Stripe. They've got a bunch of tools that make it really easy to get started. You could even get started for free. You don't even have to pay anything when you sign up and create an account. Doesn't cost you anything. You could use all of their services in developer mode for free. You obviously can't like do any processing with it, but you can mess around with all their APIs and stuff and just play with it as much as you want without having to worry about ever being billed for it. So it's great for getting started. They've got some amazing documentation. They have tooling in just about every language you can think of. Tonight we'll be using their .NET Core library. They also have it just for older versions of .NET as well, but we'll just be using their .NET library for what we're doing tonight since we're doing a Razor page. But they also have, they've got a really good JavaScript framework, and then if you're using JavaScript or you're just building a web app, we won't be using it today, but they offer a pre-built UI that you could actually put onto your website itself. Tonight we'll just be using their hosted checkout systems without actually putting it on our site ourselves, but that is something that's completely available. They've got API libraries for integrating with both backend and front end. When it comes to iOS app dev, they've got a whole SDK that you can use that has that's got tons of pre-built UIs that you can use. Just makes it really easy. But yeah, Stripe is also used by a bunch of different companies, from Google, Slack, Shopify, Lyft, Instacart. Pretty much any kind of new-ish online-centric company probably uses Stripe in some way, shape, or another. I know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's also some online accounting softwares that you can use that their invoicing system is actually powered by Stripe, and their payment processing is all powered by Stripe as well. So it's not something that's brand new. They've been around for quite a while at this point, and it's something that's widely used across the industry at this point. They've got a bunch of different product offerings. So I'm going to go over some of these. I'm going to go over today. Some of these I'm not going to show, but if you have any questions about these in particular, while I haven't worked with all of these, I do know a good chunk about them and how they function just from doing research and things. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Twitch chat as we go, or in Discord, or if you have questions relating to these products afterwards. I am in Discord as well. You could ask there. But Stripe's main product is their payment system. So they offer invoicing, which basically lets you send, if you're, say, you're self-employed and you need an easy way to be able to send out invoices to your clients for your work, they've got that system, and their invoices tied directly in with their online payment processing, which is their bread and butter. They've got a subscription management service, so say the company you're working with or your company wants to create a subscription service where it automatically charges the users each month, they've got a system to be able to create those reoccurring payments automatically. And you can do that either through their invoicing or just as a normal online checkout scenario. They have, and this is something that's somewhat new. I don't think it's super new, but it's something that I only found out more recently within the past year or so. In-person payments. So kind of like, Square. This is basically their product competitor to Square. They have physical terminals that you can buy to actually do in-person payments on, which is really amazing. And they actually have a whole product system that you could use on the back end that you can tie into those terminals to help make it really easy. They have several different terminals you can buy from them and third parties. They've got fraud protection built in through their Radar product. For most uses, that's completely free. You don't have to worry about it. They've got both third and multi-party payment platform. This is known as Stripe Connect. This is something that I've worked extensively with. I mentioned Lyft earlier and Instacart. Both of those use this Stripe Connect system. Shopify is built upon the Stripe Connect system entirely. They've got identity verification, which basically lets you request your user submit like their driver's license and a selfie to be able to verify that they are who they say they are, so you can for tax purposes or whatever you may need. This is something that Discord actually uses for their developer program. In order to become a verified developer, you have to go through this identity verification process. They use Stripe to power that. And they've also got something called Atlas. Atlas kind of is an encompassing of all of their products. You don't have to use all of them under Atlas, obviously, but Atlas is a startup management program, basically. If you wanting to open up an LLC or a C Corp, you pay a one-time fee to be a part of the Atlas program, and they worry about setting up all of the legal paperwork for you. They set up your LLC or C Corp. You can set it up for being able to have shares and all kinds of things that you don't have to worry so much about all the legal side of paperwork to hit the ground running with your startup, if that's something that you're interested in. So now I'm going to go over a little bit about the pricing. So price-wise, this is kind of standard at this point in most places that I've seen, unless you're going directly to a payment processor and you're willing to set up all this infrastructure on your own. This is kind of the standard pricing, and even then it's roughly the same. So for all credit card and debit card transactions, you're going to end up paying a 2.9 plus 30% fee. That's on every transaction that goes through. You do not have to pay that if the card bounces or is declined. It is just on successful ones. I mentioned earlier that there is the terminal. When you're in person, those fees are slightly reduced. It's only 2.7% plus 4 cents per in-person card transaction. Now, the one thing I do want to make note of is that this specifically says card transaction. Stripe offers a variety of different ways to pay. The list is so long. Pretty much anything you can think of as a way to collect a payment is something that you can enable. And each of those have their own pricing, but this is kind of the standard of what most people are looking for. Most situations, you're only going to be wanting to be charging through a credit card or their debit card. Whenever you receive your money and it's sitting in your Stripe account, and you want to actually check out, like send it on to your bank account and cash out of whatever's in your account, they do charge a 0.8% fee on transferring that to your bank. However, you will never be charged more than $5, so it's not something that, like, if you're doing a very large amount of processing, you're not going to get charged an arm and a leg for it. They do cap it off at $5. You can set these up to be automatic, or you can set them to be manually transferred whenever you see fit, depending on your business needs. Now, the other thing I mentioned earlier was your invoicing platform. So this charge is in addition to that 2.9 plus 30% on successful charge. For every invoice you send, Stripe collects a fee of 0.4%. In the invoices actually something I'm going to be demoing later on. They provide a really nice UI for just being able to give you a link and you can immediately send it to someone and they can pay online really easily without having to worry about like, oh, I need to make a PDF and like have them sign this and then I need to like I need to do an offline transaction or anything. No, you just send them an invoice and it's all taken care of. You get 25, your first 25 invoices per month are free. So if you don't send invoices often, you don't have to worry about paying for them. And invoicing is an optional feature. You don't have to use it. It's just something that's available for you to use if you'd like. And then lastly is a 0.5% charge on billing. So that's anything for when you set up subscriptions. If you're having those reoccurring payments set up, they take that 0.5% out of every single subscription transaction that you make. So these are all the core bits of their platform. These are the main fees that you're going to be charged for their main features. I'm going to go ahead and move on to their additional service pricing. So all of the things that you see listed here are all opt-in. They are not enabled by default with the exception of one of these, and I'll go over it when I get to it. But whatever I mentioned there, they have identity verification. For identity verification, it's $1.50 per lookup. If you're just wanting to verify someone's social, it's 50 cents. And that's just per check that you call out to it. They have tax services where if you'd like to start collecting local tax or state tax, whenever you do transactions, especially if you're doing those in person, they do charge a fee for collecting those taxes. However, in collecting those taxes, they do create all the legal documentation and handle all of the taxing and all of that stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about the headache of submitting all those all the time. That's just something that's automatically handled by them and taken care of whenever you charge your customers. And it's 0.5% of every transaction. You also have chargeback protection. So if you're a business or you're contracted for someone who does a large amount of payments and they want to cover themselves to make sure that they don't have to deal with chargebacks, it's 0.4% for every transaction for that chargeback protection. And then what that includes is that if a customer were to issue a chargeback or dispute the charge, any fees associated with that and the actual charge itself does not come out of the business's pocket. They do not see anything. It does not affect their bottom line. Stripe 100% covers whatever chargeback or fees are associated with that from the bank that is disputing the charge. You get a notification that it's happened, but you don't have to submit anything to Stripe when it happens. They don't require any evidence for it. It's just something that's automatically covered if you opt into the chargeback protection. So they also, one of the things I mentioned earlier was those multi-party transaction accounts like Lyft and Instacart and Shopify. Those fall under Stripe Connect. So if you are using Stripe Connect for multi-party payments, which is specifically if you as a platform are collecting money and then distributing it to both yourself and people you have signed up. So like in the instance of Lyft, where if you place a ride and you order it, Lyft gets the money and then they pay out their drivers plus the tips that you leave. That falls under that would fall under this 0.25% of the account volume. So anything that you in the example of Lyft, any money that they pay to their drivers, they have to pay 0.25% of that when it gets sent to the driver. The driver doesn't see any difference with the payment, but that comes directly out of the account balance of the Stripe account. For specifics, it doesn't really matter much here, but I'll go ahead and mention it. Those types of accounts are known as Express and Custom Connect accounts. If you are using Stripe Connect for in an instance where it's kind of like Shopify, where Shopify is a service you can use, and then you have a bunch of different stores. They have a bunch of different stores underneath them. They don't charge this fee for that, for being the platform. They only charge this fee if it's something that's associated with multiple people are getting money from the transaction and you're not just collecting a platform charge. Next, we have the fraud protection. So as long as you're not doing massive volumes, and you're just on their standard plan of that 2.9% plus whatever cents charge per transaction, you have this free fraud protection built in to what you're already paying. They've got machine learning algorithms and a bunch of other stuff to let you know if the charge is fraudulent, and it blocks the charge if it's going through, and also flags it if it could potentially be fraud, so you're able to view that information. And then lastly, we've got the information regarding the startup for their Atlas program. It is a one-time fee to join the program, and that covers all the legal costs associated with actually founding your LLC and getting that all set up and all your tax documents ready for you. So yeah, that's kind of the basis of what Stripe does. They've got a lot of different services. There are several that I didn't mention here. Some of them they've got. It's a closed program. You can't just opt into it. It's one of the only ones you can't opt into. But they've got corporate credit card issuing. If you are a large enough company where you issue corporate credit cards to certain employees, they have a system for managing that. They also have a system for issuing, and now this one is free, issuing debit cards, essentially, to your employees or your drivers, per se. So this is kind of, I'll use like DoorDash or Uber Eats as an example. So whenever a driver signs up with them, they get a physical card that they can use to pay for the food when they go to the restaurants. Stripe offers this service to be able to issue either digital or physical cards to employees or contractors that you can use their API to freely control how much money is available at any given point on that card. Yeah, and that's kind of my breadth of knowledge of their main products. They've got a few more here and there, but they're pretty small or free. That's just included in the platform. But yeah, so I might have said it before, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Tonight, what I'll be covering, we're going to get into the Stripe portal. We're going to create a few products, and we're going to set up a subscription. We're going to set up a product that has a set price, and then we're going to also create a product that doesn't have a price that we'll use if we want to charge a user for something that the price varies on. We're also going to look into creating an invoice and actually charging those products that we've created with those set prices and adding them to their invoice. And then we're also going to be going into how you do all of that using their API. So yeah, before I get started, does anyone, I know this is kind of hard because I am remote, does anyone have any questions in the room or on Twitch? I will give Tiffany a moment to let me know if anyone in the room has questions. And if no one has questions, if you could tell me, Tiffany, that'd be amazing. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Matthew. All right. So then let me go ahead and switch things around. Go ahead and close out of this. All right, so this is the Stripe portal. This is what you see whenever you create an account for the first time. It's a pretty bare bones when you look at it. If you've been in Stripe before but haven't been on recently, they just released a refresh of their UI. Nothing really changed except for they put the, instead of a sidebar for navigation, it's up on top. We have a question in Twitch chat. Do I know of anyone who has used the Atlas program? If so, how helpful was it versus handling the legal stuff on their own? So I personally don't know of anyone who's used the Atlas program. I almost used it for something that I was going to do a few years back. Ultimately, we had already started the process of setting up an LLC. Otherwise, we would have gone through the process of it. Even though I haven't been a part of it, if you are very new and if you don't want to deal with the legal headache and you're concerned about taxes and all those things, from my understanding, the Atlas program does help handle all that stuff. The Atlas program also gives you access to a bunch of business professionals that can help you along your way of starting up your business. I know, let me actually pull up. Let me go ahead and pull up their site on Atlas to see its specifics, because I don't remember anything in detail, but it's they take care of founding your business and getting everything set up, give you your tax ID ready. They give you discounts on certain services relating to getting your business started. You have access to a community where you can ask others who are in the program for help. And if you're doing stocks to founders, you can issue those stocks as a part of the program. That's about all I know. There are some ongoing costs that you have to pay every year. I think the biggest thing that's a part of this is they take care of your taxes. I think that's the biggest incentive if you don't want to have to worry about taking care of all your taxes or creating a bank account and getting all that stuff set up. This is what that's for. So yeah. Hopefully that answered the question. Yeah. Okay, so going back to the dashboard, you got your basic stuff here. You've got that payments. This is where all those invoicing and subscriptions and where you can go to find all of your payments that have been created. One of the things that I will note here is that they've recently created this thing called payment links. This is not something you can do with their API, but if you're a business and you just quickly need to charge someone really quickly for something, you can create a payment link and send it to someone. It just expedites the process of not having to worry about setting up an invoice or doing all those special things if you just need someone to pay for this one little thing really quick. You've got your balances. This basically just is what your current, how much money you've currently got sitting in your account, how much, where it's going, if you have funds on hold from transactions or any of those things, you can view them all here in the portal. You've got your customers, so every single time someone creates a payment and goes to submit a payment, a customer is automatically generated. One of the things that you can do with the API is you can link your payments to your customers and manage it through the API. We will not be getting into that tonight because we're just doing kind of basic overview of the basics. If that's something that people are interested in, going into more in depth with the customer system and the Stripe Connect, those are both very, very broad and in-depth systems that have a bunch of things that if people are interested, I'd be more than happy to give another talk on at a later date. You got your products, so you can, this serves both two functions. If you have a physical location and you're using one of their terminals, you can use the product system to be able to manage those products. One of the great things about this is you can view all the products and the prices you have associated with them through the API. So if you're working with a business or you're just trying to get off the ground running and you don't want to spend all the time of trying to worry about creating your own admin interface to manage all of the products you have and what you're selling, you can do that all here visually in this UI. It's really intuitive. We'll go over it here in a little bit. You can issue coupons for your products as well to give coupon codes, set your shipping rates, taxes. Got a bunch of different things in here that goes vastly beyond what I'll be covering tonight. You've got some reports for basic things if you want to run reports. You've got access to the Stripe Connect system. This is kind of what I talked about earlier. There's some visuals here for the different models between this where you can set it up as your users and then you're the marketplace and you have your service providers or e-commerce platforms or software platforms. There's a bunch of different things. If you notice down here, actually, they have a few partners already. that say if you create a site with Squarespace or Wix or WooCommerce, you can hook into that directly and not have to worry about too much stuff. They've already got stuff configured for it. And then anything else, they've got a bunch of stuff in here. We're not going to really worry about these other products, but these are where their other products are for quick access of all that stuff. So yeah, that is their admin portal. One of the things I will note is that, so when you create an account, you have two different environments. We've got you've got your testing mode, which is used for developers, and you have a public published version of your API. So whenever you're hooking into their API and you're in test mode, you have access to pretty much you have access to everything. You don't have to worry about messing up a production environment. Anything you do in this testing environment sticks to that testing environment and does not carry over into any crazy things relating. I have no idea what I was saying. It doesn't mix the environments, basically what it is. You don't have to worry about mixing and matching stuff. The only caveat I will note is that you have one testing environment and you cannot create multiple testing environments. So say you have your production build, and then you've got a staging environment, and then you've also got another environment for like active development that you're working against to make sure your app still stays functioning, but is not mucking up your staging server that you show to your client before things are deployed. You can't do that with a single account. What you can do, though, is go up here and hit New Account and create a brand new account. You can create as many of these as you want. They do not cost anything. As long as you're in test mode, you do not have to worry about any of the business verification or anything. So what we actually do at my work is we have an environment set up for our client that they've specifically created and granted us access to, and then we have two different Stripe accounts, one for our staging and one for our active development. One email address can be associated with multiple different accounts. You don't have to worry about them being separate logins. They're all under your shared login because they're done via email. But yeah. So, unless anyone has any questions about this, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started on the demo relating to getting the site set up, and we're kind of going to be going back and forth between the demo and the site. So, I already have the finished code for this all up on GitHub. It's been I can post it in the Discord if needed, but I also have if you use the GitHub command on here, you can have access to the GitHub and all the stuff that's already up there. There's links to the presentation that I gave earlier there as well if you'd ever like to view at a later date. But one of the other things is, while we're getting started, I'm going to go ahead and run this in chat. But for those who are in the room as well, if you would like to join along and poke around at things while I'm testing, I've got it set up to automatically, once I get started and we're actively developing, if you go to that URL that is in the Twitch chat now, and I'll go ahead and also copy it and put it in the Dev Night chat in Discord. If you visit that, you'll actually be piped directly to my machine, so you can follow along as we're going. If I don't have the browser on screen, you kind of want to poke around. All right, so let's get started. I've gone ahead and I've just run .NET New MVC. All I've done here is created a brand new project with MVC using Razor. Nothing else has been touched in here except for adding some configs for production so that we can get thing. I just realized I don't think it is showing my screen. Hold on. Okay, there we go. I was on the wrong thing. All right, now we have the IDE open. So yeah, just a basic MVC project here. We've got our views. All of our work is going to be done in here and pretty much in our controllers. I'm not going to touch the stuff that was set up by default. Pretty much, we're just going to create new stuff for this demo. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we create this, we've got this new project, is we're going to add Stripe. And all we got to do is just do .NET add package stripe.net, and that go ahead and add Stripe to our project, just so we now have access to it. So from here, I'm just gonna make sure everything is already good to go here. So the first thing we're gonna want to do is we're actually going to want to set up our authentication keys. So in order to start using the application, we have to actually, for our backend, we have to verify that what account we're using. So we're going to go ahead and do this using a key. I'm grabbing the snippet. So in our configure function here, when the app starts, all we got to do is just slap in this. We note that I've got to import. Oh gosh, I am not used to using. Not having the auto include from writer. We just add using Stripe, and then we say Stripe configuration, specify our API key, and I'm just grabbing this from my environment variables that I already have set up. Is everyone able to see the font size okay in the room? Or does it need to be increased? Okay, perfect. I got a yes from Twitch chat, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. So we've added in our Stripe API key. Now, any work we do, we don't have to worry. It's already set up and running. So what we're using here is the secret key that's specified to us. If you are doing anything on the front end, you'll actually be using the publishable key instead. But in this demo tonight, since we're not using any of Stripe's pre-built systems, other than the stuff that they host themselves, we're just going to be worrying about this secret key for linking up to the API. So next, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and create a brand new controller. I'm actually going to open Writer really quick because as much as I love VS Code, sometimes I'm realizing how much I need the autocomplete stuff, so give me just a moment. You never realize how much you use your IDE's shortcuts until you don't have them. All right, open. Just a second, I'll make sure to get it over onto the screen just a moment once I have it up. I opened the wrong solution. That's always great. I opened the completed version. Does anyone have any questions while I get the proper project open by chance? Let's go ahead, and I apologize about the size of the sidebar. Let me go ahead and... Alright, that should be good. And then let's go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a new controller here. We're just going to call it Stripe controller. And this is going to handle all of our code relating to Stripe. And then we've got an error here because it's upset we don't have a view. So I'm just going to go ahead and automatically create these views. Actually, I'll just do this. I'm going to create a folder in my views called Stripe. And then I'm just going to add a new eraser MVC view that has, we're just going to call it index in this case. And then I'm going to copy in a snippet from the completed version. Just a second. I swear I won't be doing this very often. It's just to get everything started, to speed things up a little bit. Just gonna throw in this. So the only other thing we need to do now, so before I start the app, I'm going to go ahead and update our startup. So since we went ahead and added a new controller, what we've got to do is actually define that controller in our maps so that we have access to it. So I'm just going to slap this lovely little snippet all the way down here into my endpoint configuration. So now that it has that, I don't think I need to add anything else in here. I believe everything else is just automatically configured with the views. So we should be able to go ahead and run this. I'm going to go ahead and open this. Watch run, and then hopefully it'll get us started building. Give it a second. All right. There we go. Should be up and running. And now I believe if anyone in the room wants to double check it's working, you should be able to open up that demo link, which I just realized isn't the correct URL. Just a second, and I will put it in Twitch chat again because I copied the wrong one earlier. The link actually is... I have to restart the tunnel. Ah, shit. Give me just a second. Edit. Copy link. Hey, it's not working right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and move on. I'm not gonna dwell on it. It's not the end of the world. But we've now got our application running. So let's go ahead and create. Let's go ahead and go into our shared and our layouts. We're just gonna quickly add a little navigation link to our code here to add a link to Stripe in the nav bar. And even though we're not using it, I'm going to go ahead and throw in these scripts. So these scripts right here are basically just what you need from Stripe in order to get stuff running. I'm using the wrong editor when I do this. I'm just going to close that so I don't do that again. We're going to go over to our shared layout. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to duplicate this existing nav link. And this time, yeah, it's right there. We've got it pointing to our new controller. So now when we save it and go ahead and reload, we should see Stripe up here now. If I give it just a moment to rebuild. If it wants to rebuild. It does not want to seem to rebuild. There we go. There's Stripe. So now if we go to Stripe, we've got our lovely little time to learn some Stripe stuffs from our lovely page here. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and go back to Stripe and create some products. So I mentioned earlier you can manage your products through Stripe, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create 3 different products in here. One of them is going to be a product that has no prices, a product that has a price, and then a subscription. So let's go ahead and just call this base product, and then it doesn't have a subscription. I'm going to go ahead and give it an image, and pardon the wacky images I have saved. This one we're just gonna use a cute kitty. Once it uploads, and then we're gonna say let's charge $13 one time for this kitty. Now note here, we can actually add multiple different pricing on here. So you can have multiple different prices for the same product. You can have a subscription version of that product compared to just a static one-time price. In this case, we're just gonna keep it simple. We're gonna have a different product for our subscriptions and a different product for our prices, and we're just gonna have the one price. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this product, and we're gonna add another one. We're gonna call this base subscription. And then again, we're going to upload another image. In this case, let's just use, say, a screenshot from a game I was playing recently. We'll just use that character as a screenshot, and we're going to say this subscription costs $5 a month. Or actually, no. We're going to set it to be $5 a week in order to use this. So if you note here on the subscription models, you have a lot of control over how you want to build out your subscriptions. We're just going to do weekly for this. You can also set it to be metered. So if you're wanting to charge based on usage amounts, you can use this instead. And you can use this, say, like, if you want to build an API that people can consume and charge based on how often they consume it, you can do metered usages here. But we're going to go ahead and leave it at this. And we're going to have one more product. And then we're going to call it product, or we're going to call it dynamic product. And we're just going to put in the description here, catch-all for stuff we don't know what to charge for. And then for its image, I'm just going to use another image that I've got saved here. We're just going to use this photo of Elmo with a fiery background, because why not? And we're not even going to include a price on this. So there's going to be no pricing information. This is just our catch-all. It doesn't have anything on it. And we're going to go ahead and press save. So now that we've pressed save, we can see that we've got our three products here, our dynamic product, our base subscription, and our base product. We can see when it was created. Anytime we can archive these products instead of deleting them. So if you just want to archive it, that's a great way of basically doing a soft delete. It still exists. You can bring it back at any time. You cannot delete things that still have stuff linked to them. So if you've ever used the product and charged someone for it, or you've still got prices associated with products, you can't delete them. They can only be archived. But if you create stuff by accident and you're not using it, you're free to delete it. So we go in here to the product. We'll notice that we get this lovely view. We've got an ID for the product. It's just a string that all IDs in Stripe have this little identifier in front of it of what type it is. So in this case, it's prod underscore. Represents that it's a product, and then it's got its unique identifier. It tells us when it was created. If we're just billing per item and we're wanting to actually have a descriptor on someone's actual bill on their credit card or whatever, we can add a statement descriptor here, or just to have it on invoicing. We can have multiple prices. Each product has a price on it, and you'll notice this price here has that lovely, lovely price underscore as its starter ID, so you can identify what it is. And then it's also got that payment link here, so I'll go ahead and show this off here. So if we want to just quickly create a link to a payment, it brings up, we've got this lovely little page, which we'll see again later on, It shows us the image of the product. We can add a custom message in here for whatever reasons, and this is just a quick, easy way for businesses to be able to configure and send out their stuff without having to talk to a developer to get their site updated. And they've already got it all nicely configured for mobile. One of the things you'll see on here is Apple Pay. They support Apple Pay natively. You got to go through a few extra steps to configure it. Same thing with Google Pay. It's all right there. Yep. Sorry, I just saw the question, but yes, this ad product stuff is all powered by Stripe. It's all in their system. You don't have to pay anything for it. It just comes with the service. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to hit create link, and this creates this lovely URL that you can actually go to. So I'll use this as an example. I'm going to go ahead and go to it. But you can hand this link out to someone to pay. They're able to, you can check the status here at any time. But while you're in test mode, there are specific card numbers that you can use to trigger certain scenarios, like a card decline or successful, or a card that needs additional verification. So I'll get into those card numbers later, but basically the basic one to get anything approved is just 4242424242424242. And all you have to do to make sure it's valid is give it a date that is not expired and a random 3 numbers for its CVC. As you can see here, there's this button for Save My Info for secure one-click checkout. Stripe supports saving your customers' credit card information. You don't even have to worry about saving any of the data to your system yourself. So if I were to actually submit something here, we'd see a customer gets created, and you can, as long as you have that customer ID, if you're creating stuff with the API to create a payment, you can just use that ID to get access to their saved credit card information. The full credit card is not exposed to you. You just have access to the ID. You can't charge them on the same card unless they've actually allowed you to do so. It's got all those security things taken care of for you. But yeah, so this is the product thing. We're going to actually go ahead and close this now. And we're going to go back over to here. So that's our products. Now that we've got our products created, we've looked at the base price. The one with the subscription is pretty much the same. We can also create a payment link here. I'll go and create one really quick so you can see what it looks like. But whenever you do subscription, it'll, instead of being like, complete your purchase here, it's just subscribe, this is how much it is, how often it is, and you enter your information. Yeah. So now that we have some products created, let's actually go ahead and get that data from Stripe. So, let's go ahead and create a service. I'm just gonna put this in the base here. We could put this in the controller, but for keeping things clean, I'm just gonna put it in here. Before I continue though, I see that we got a question. What if I wanted to run an hourly payment system? Could Stripe handle that? Example, every hour a user uses my specified service and I charge them that amount of money. So that's what that metered usage would be for. You can keep track of someone's usage and send that data to Stripe, and you can have them be invoiced monthly for their usages for that automatically. Or you can set it up for automated payments for whatever that money is, and if they don't have enough money in your account, you'll get a notification. You can handle all that stuff. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and quickly create, we're just going to call it Stripe service. And we're going to zoom this in. Next, so we want to be able to actually get products. So it's really easy to get products from Stripe. I believe all you have to actually do, so we're going to actually go to the top. I believe I did it above this. So we're going to import using Stripe. And then we're just going to say, let's create a new method. We're going to call it public, and it's going to return a Stripe list. This is basically just a fancy list that just has Stripe-related data in it. We've got a product, and we're going to call this get all products. if I can type today, which apparently I cannot. And then we're going to return, we're going to create a new instance of the product service from Stripe, and then we're just going to grab a list. And it's literally as simple as that. With that, we've already got a list of all of our products that are in Stripe that exist. In order to access this, let's actually go back over to our controller. And in here, we're going to, on the controller level above everything, private. I'm trying to remember how I set this up to make sure it doesn't fail, because I don't want it airing out. I closed it. It's fine. We're just going to do it a different way, so we don't have too many errors and it doesn't take up too much time. So we're going to call, we're going to say var service equals, and we have our new Stripe service that we just created. And then we're going to call, let's say var products. Products. Oh my gosh, I cannot type. And then this is just going to be that service dot get all products. So this is a list of all of our products, and then this comes back as a list, and I'm going to, in our view data for the controller, we're just going to set a new variable called products JSON. Products JSON, and we're going to just convert this products list to a JSON right off the bat. And then we're just going to go back to our view. So from here, in order to access that data in our view, all we have to do is say, we just need to, I'm going to put it in a pre-tag, and then it's just, we add an @ and we're going to access our view data, and then we're just going to plop in our, where was it? Our products JSON. I'm just going to copy the string, save. Why do I have an error? That shouldn't be happening. I'm going to close out of this and make sure my API keys are there really quick off screen. Because it does not like that I don't have the API, those configurations. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Okay, I think this should get us with the actual config without issues. Perfect. Go ahead and refresh this. Why am I getting that error? Set your API key Stripe configuration, API key startup. Did I not add my environments to my... I'm just gonna set the key manually, and we're just not gonna open that startup file again. Or, you know, it could turn out that I didn't save the file when I added the service. So, just a moment. Stripe.api. Oh gosh, what was it? What was the error? Where's Firefox? Stripe configuration .api key. We're gonna set the key. I will just roll this key afterwards. This key won't be valid. Okay, there we go. So now we've got an actual output of our list. It's showing us all of our not files, but it's showing us all of our information we've got in Stripe. Notice that it's only showing the products, it's not showing the prices. So whenever prices are its own system entirely, we'll get into that in just a moment. But don't exactly have to worry about it too much. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and copy a code snippet so we can get this going, because I realize things are starting to run a little bit later than I thought. I'm going to go ahead and create a container in here. But next thing we want to do is actually output those products with their prices. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go back to our Stripe controller in here, and we're going to add a brand new method. Sorry, not services. We're going to call this public, and it's going to be get price for product. I'm just going to copy in this snippet instead of typing this all out. So basically what this does is I'm going to pass in one of those Stripe products, and I'm going to say, great, I would like to request that I get all the prices that are associated with this particular product. So I create this price list option, which is a class provided to you by Stripe. And then I create a new instance of the pricing service, and I call that same list function, but this time I pass in my options. And so now I'm able to get a list of all of those prices. So now from our actual controller, what we can do is we can say, hey, for each of our products, what I want to do, and this is just going to be for every single one of our products, I want to get, if I can type, for every single one of our products, I want to see if there's any prices, and if each of those prices, I'm going to, I forgot to create this. For each and every single one of the, I'll fix the squigglies in a second, but for each one of these prices, I want to basically grab out its ID as well as its value so I can display that value out to the user. So the reason why we grab the ID is whenever we're creating our invoices and all those stuff, we actually will do it based on the ID, not the product itself. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly create this new model. It's just gonna be a struct. It's gonna be called product data, and it's just gonna have those items on it. And then I'm just going to have this list of product data that we have. So we're basically saying, hey, I've got this list of, I have this empty list of product data, and then for every single product that I have, that's in the wrong spot. For every single product that I have, we're going to grab its ID, the value, the name of the product, and its URL, and then we're just going to return that data in the view. So in our view, all we have to do now is say, since we're passing it just that list as a model, traditionally you probably wouldn't do this in your actual application. But in this case, since the only thing on here that we're worrying about is the actual product data, what we're going to do is we're just going to, now that we've got it on our model, I'm going to add this row here. So basically what this does is says for every single product that's on our model, I'm going to display a little card that has its image, its name, and then its price value. So for the one product that didn't have a price value, we're just going to say unknown. So if I go ahead and save this and go ahead and change over here to the actual application, if I go to Stripe now, we should be able to see, in addition to that list, once it compiles, we now see our 3 products and our prices. All by just going in here and saying, give me a list of prices and give me a list of those, give me a list of products, and then for every single product on my list, give me their prices. From what I've been able to tell, there's not a way for you to get both your products and your prices at the same time. Those do need to be 2 separate calls. There might be a way to get it, but I have not found it when I was looking as I was building this presentation out. However, it's fairly simple. So next, what we're actually going to do, now that we've got that set up, we want to go ahead and create those buttons so that we want to create some buttons that let us actually add to a cart. Before I do that, Does anyone have any questions regarding that bit? I also apologize if I start talking really fast. I just realized it's just getting close to 8 o'clock. Okay. Don't see anything, so I'm go ahead and move on. So we're gonna actually go back to our controller for our view, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and, for the sake of time, I'm also gonna copy this snippet out, and we'll just walk through what it does. We're gonna create this brand new straight billing portal. I believe that's what I need to import. So we're just going to basically create this brand new session. So what a session does is it's that cart. This session identifies, So what the session does is essentially says, hey Stripe, I want to check someone out. I need to add items to their cart to actually check them out. So what we do here is we say, hey, I've got a list of options. I want to create a card payment, and based on if I've decided to pass in a subscription, I'm just going to go ahead and either do it as a subscription or a payment. So the difference between subscription and payment is one sets up a reoccurring billing. The other one is just a one-time payment. As far as I'm aware, you cannot set up a one-time payment and a subscription in the same transaction. They have to be two separate transactions. However, while they do have to be two separate transactions, if you've built out your own UI, what you can do is something called an offline transaction. So that doesn't have anything presented to the front-end user. You're able to charge the card that they gave you with whatever information you need to set up for whatever amount, and you get notified if it was successful or not. It does not need authorization from the actual client. However, legally, you do need to inform them that their card is being used to set up for billing purposes. But if you've gotten that all laid out, you can do these offline transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and create this method over here for the sake of time, because this is a very large chunk of code. And I did not realize I would be running this late. I'm going to go over it fairly quickly. But basically what this generate line items does is I pass in if it's a subscription or not. In this case, we're not even going to worry about subscriptions. I'm going to get all of our products. I'm going to create a new list of product data. And then for every single product, I'm going to get its price, and then I'm going to add it to this cart. And basically, I'm going to add it to this list of product data, and I'm going to identify, is it a one-time purchase, or is it a subscription? And then if it is the one thing, actually that's later on. But the reason why I have this price type here is that this code is written in such a way so that it catches the information for if the product doesn't end up having a price. These fields will just be null, and we don't have to worry about errors later on. And then down here, I check for if it's a subscription, and I set up the cart slightly differently. So you'll notice here, I've got this line item. I've got our session cart that we started at the very top. As I go through here, I add stuff into our cart. This up here basically was just our loop to get the product data. If I only want subscriptions, because we can't mix one-time payments and subscriptions, add the subscriptions to the cart. Otherwise, I'm going to just go ahead and add our products. I check to see if it has a price. If it has a price, I use the price. Otherwise, I'm just putting in $10 here. This section is where you'd put in any logic for like your custom pricing. But basically, instead of supplying this price object and just giving it the price ID, it's just a string. We provide some pricing data. We say what currency it is, what product it's for, and how much we're charging. So this product ID in this instance is just going to be that catch-all product that we made. And then I'm just going to return the cart back to the controller. and I'm just going to set that cart as our line items. And then I set up the card, I create a brand new session, and then what I'm doing here is I'm redirecting the user to this location to check out. So if I refresh, if I were to go back over here, we haven't added anything here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is actually grab our code snippet for allowing us to add those buttons. Like actually grab a few buttons here. We're not going to use all of them yet. Come out this line. Purposing references. Perfect. So now if I go ahead and refresh the page, we should see right under all of these, we're going to have two different buttons. One is going to be add products to cart, and one adds our subscriptions to our cart. So if I hit add subscriptions to cart, it goes through, grabs all of our products and stuff. It sees that we have this subscription. So now we've got that same screen that I showed earlier from that payment link. This is their pre-built UI. If I had the tunnel properly working, you guys would be able to interact with this. But basically, this is all built in here. I'll go ahead and just use, I'll put in an email address, and then I'm just going to put in a card that I know is going to succeed, which is their testing card. You can technically use real debit cards in here, but you won't be charged for it. It will never show up on your statement because we're in testing mode. I'm just going to put John Doe as the name on the card. We're just going to do our local zip code, and then I'm going to save it. If I press save here, it'll ask me to provide a phone number. I believe the tester phone number is just all zeros. And then I can press no, we're not going to do that. But yeah, I can press subscribe, and then it processes it, and then once it checks for completion, a little check mark, and then I get redirected back here. You can specify where you want your users to be redirected to by just changing the success URL. And now, if we actually go over here to payments, if I refresh the page, we can now see that our subscription was created with that email address, and it actually attached a new customer to it. So you can see this risk evaluation. That's coming from their fraud detection services. This payment was successfully set up for future off-system payments, which is that offline transaction that I mentioned. It charged them $5. And down here, we can see that this is the Stripe processing fee that was taken out. That's that 2.9% plus 40 cents plus however many cents plus their monthly fee. It's got all this stuff down here. The risk of value assessment, you can see where locally it was created. And they've now got an account tied to them. You've got a receipt, and then you can view a log of everything here. One of the things that Stripe offers is webhooks. So you can set up your API to be listening in for stuff from Stripe. So whenever anything gets updated from Stripe, anything happens, your API can be notified, and you can do special processing with that. What that looks like in an actual production scenario for us with the instance that I'm with is we have a customer create something, they get charged for it. Before they get charged for it, we create some stuff on our back end, and we mark it as unpaid, and then we add some metadata onto the transaction. And once they complete their payment on Stripe, we get a response from the webhook notifying us that, hey, their payment processed, and we just look at that metadata to figure out what transaction that was, what thing on our end is associated, that transaction was associated with it, so we can do processing. But we've got this customer. If we actually go in here to now on a customer's page, we actually have this payment method that was added in here. It's set up for future use because it's a recurring subscription. It's got their email address and their name. It's marked this as recurring and all of these lovely things. Get events log and all that stuff. So we're going to do basically the same thing here, but instead of subscriptions, we're going to do products. calls that exact same endpoint, but instead of looking through all of our subscriptions, we're looking for our products. We now see that we have this dynamic product that we set for $10 in the back end, as well as our base product that we already had set up in Stripe for $13. It's dynamic product, catch-all for all the stuff we don't know what to charge for. Same thing here. If I were to use the same email address and say, I forgot to pull this up beforehand, Stripe tester cards. There is a list of cards. We're actually going to use a different card number this time. We're going to use this authentication required. So when I use this card number, anytime there is a transaction where the bank has requested there be more information provided, we can use this. And so now if I hit pay, we're going to get a little pop-up here. This pop-up is the 3D secure page. Anytime if the bank is like, oi, we think this might be fraud, we'd like the user to verify their identity. This is all automatically set up. If you're using their SDKs, it's got calls in it for being able to show the users this. You don't have to worry about this. Even if you've got your own custom-built UI, they will let you know if it requires the 3D secure authentication, and they will give you URLs to show your user to redirect them to complete it. So in this case, I'm going to fail the authentication just so you can see what it looks like when it fails. You're unable to authenticate your payment method. If I go ahead and hit pay again, this time it'll pop up again for testing. And this time I'm just going to go ahead and hit approve and hit complete transaction. So now that transaction has been completed. If I go back in here to, got redirected back here, if I actually go to their overview and go ahead and refresh their page, I don't think it'll be on the same customer. We'll see if it's smart. Yeah, it's not the same customer. So while it does have the same, I did give it the same name and the same email address, because I didn't give it the customer ID that we created, it automatically created a brand new customer for this second usage. And it's got, if you notice down here, because it wasn't a subscription, and I did not check for saving for future use, it did not save their payment information. But if I go on here into their payments, I can see the card it was used for, I can see the risk evaluation associated with it, and I can also see that it did fail at one point to be authorized. And they've got links to documentation and stuff in here. But we can also see, because we had those products created, we can see actually what these products are, how much we charge them, the fee, and all those things. We can see the country the card originates from. Germany is just where it sets that 3D authorization to. Yeah, and lastly, we're going to do one other thing. So lastly, we're going to do invoicing. So invoicing is that thing I mentioned earlier, the very beginning, that's you've got 25 free a month. You can leverage it with your API if that's something that you're wanting to do. Typically, in most use cases, you're probably not going to need to worry about that. However, I'm going to go ahead and give an example anyways. So in our controller, I'm going to add one more action. That is not the code snippet. Okay, there we go. So we've got, this should be, we're going to create a new service, new instances of our Stripe service, and then we've got basically, so in this instance, I'm just going to hard code in this. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our customers, and I'm going to grab the ID of the first one we made that had the subscription on it, because it has a saved card. So I'm going to put this in here. So basically what this does is we create a new invoice with options. We specify the customer, the collection method that we're going to actually physically send them the invoice, and we're going to say it's due 7 days from now. I'm just going to call this service 1 because I am lazy. We've got, and then we just create a new invoice service. We create the invoice, and then the big thing here is we finalize it. And then once we finalize it, typically, in most scenarios, what you'd want to do is you get that invoice from the finalization and get the hosted invoice URL. You'd like email them, text them, save this somewhere so that you could send it to the client. For this demo, we're just going to take the URL and redirect ourselves. So in order to do this, what we need to create in our service is a new function in here to add items to upcoming invoice. So we're going to do the same thing we did earlier for the sake of time and stuff. We've got all of our products. We've now got our invoice item services. Essentially, this is from Stripe, basically functions as line items. Whenever you want to charge an invoice to someone, what you do is you add line items to the user that are marked as pending. So if I go ahead, and I'm actually going to delete this duplication here really quick. If I go ahead and comment out all of this information, we're just going to return view, and we're gonna get an error, but that's fine. I'm fine with the error in here. Actually, we'll return null. So what this will do is if we go ahead, it should be rebuilt now. Let's go ahead and add that button. Let me grab the snippet for the button. Oh, we already have it there. And if we come back over here and we refresh our page, we should see our new button here on the right once it finishes building. And we're going to hit generate new product invoice. It's just going to return perfect. That's what I wanted to see. And now if I go ahead and refresh this, we should... Whack. I guess it doesn't function the way I thought it did. But if you were to have created invoice line items in the in the portal itself, you would see those pending items in the portal. But for our case, our sake in the API, what happens is we are creating this invoice and we add items to the customer's pending invoice listing. And then we create the invoice, we finalize it, and we redirect them to that actual invoice. And so in practice, what that looks like is this, once it reloads. So we're going to generate the product invoice, and now we'll see a slightly different screen than our payment checkout screens. We've got our invoice. We can view our invoice details here, and it's got these base products that we already set up. We can download the invoice as a PDF if we'd like. And we can open it in Firefox, because that's just the browser I'm using, and this is what it looks like, so they can have a printed out version of it that has a link on it as well for them to pay. In this instance, we have a few options here. I don't know why WeChat is there. I have not figured out how to disable it. I haven't used their invoices feature in at least 3 years, but apparently you can pay with WeChat. But that's there. It's got card information automatically filled out, and then it also has bank transfer information. So if you're wanting to pay an invoice via a bank transfer, it provides information for the client to be able to take that to their bank to be able to pay them. But yeah, that's the basics of it. And if I go over here, if I refresh this, they'll actually have that invoice on them now. Come on. Where is it? Here it is. We've got our open invoice right here. We can see that we finalized it, which means we can't make any more changes to it. But we've set it up. It's linked to this customer. They got the payment page. These are the allowed payment methods on it. We just did all that through the API without having to need to do anything specific. We can press the send button to send it to a specific person. If they needed to send it to additional stuff, we can add notes to it. We can also just charge the customer using that saved payment method that they have earlier. Say they haven't paid their invoice yet, and we want to try and manually collect based on the card that they had saved to their account already from that subscription. We can go ahead and charge it in here. Or we can add we can we can go and manually add it onto their card, onto their account. If they like contacted us over the phone, it's like, I don't know how to pay the invoice online. I just want to pay over the phone, and they wanted to use a different card. All they would have to do, all the client would have to do is just come in here, go to their account, and then go to payment methods, press add. They could add a bank account or a debit card, and just the client can type the information in here along with their address to add the card, and then they can go back to their invoice and pay for it. It's very simple. I hit the wrong button, so I can't collect it from there. I can just hit charge customer, and then once it's charged, it finalizes, and it's marked as paid. And now if we go into our balances, we can see that we're not going to see anything in here because it's testing and because those payments haven't technically reconciled yet. But yeah, that's Stripe. Very kind of broad strokes overview. It may seem a little bit daunting at first, and I apologize if I went kind of fast, because I know it's just past 8 o'clock now. But we were able to get through everything. Again, all the code for this is up on my GitHub. I'll go ahead and run the command in Slack, in Twitch chat, for those who are interested in taking a peek at the code. Let me just add Tiffany. But yeah, that's Stripe. It's a very wonderful tool. I use it in my day-to-day at work, and I've used it previously. Strongly recommend. It's much better than dealing with the headache of trying to set up all of your payment stuff on your own. So yeah, does anyone have any questions, comments, anything? Alright, well, unless someone pipes up, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for the evening. You could find me in the Discord. Just at me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them if you have any. Whether it be for Stripe or Firebase or whatever, I am more than happy to try and answer questions regarding those things. I love working with all of them. Highly recommend both of them. So yeah, thanks everyone. Have a good evening. I'm gonna go ahead and end my